Welcome to our next lesson, lesson 7 of our Read Aloud series, where we're talking about early Asian civilizations. And today we're going to be talking about another religion. We've learned about one religion already, which was Hinduism, and the important holiday we talked about last time of Diwali. Today we're going to talk about a new religion called Buddhism. So remember, before we start our Buddhism, let's remember our early Asian civilization vocab. Again, I'll say the word. You repeat it after me. Fertile, source, represent, unjust, resembles, custom. Again, those are our vocab words for today, are from this unit. Remember, why are we learning about other civilizations' religions? Remember, it's first to help us understand what people believed, and then this helps us understand why they did different sorts of rituals and celebrations. We learned about a holiday they celebrated. And then remember, we may not always agree with what's being presented, but it's good to seek to understand. It's always good to understand, even if there's differences. After today's reading, you should be able to understand how religion for these people was a key component in their civilizations and show an understanding of the word conquer. So listen carefully to learn important facts about Buddhism. Look at this picture. Do you have any ideas about what this building could be? This is the Great Stupa of Sanchi, one of the many sacred or holy dome-shaped shrines built all over Asia to honor the Buddha, the founder of Buddhism. Today, you will learn a little bit about Buddhism, the world's fourth largest religion, and the Buddhists who practice this religion. It all began about 2,500 years ago with the birth of Siddhartha Gautama in the foothills of the Himalayan mountains. Siddhartha was a prince and born to very rich parents. Siddhartha's parents loved him very much, so much in fact, that they wanted to protect him from all the suffering or misery and pain in the world. By doing so, they thought he would always be happy. So Siddhartha was kept behind the walls of the palace and was given anything he wanted: fine food, beautiful clothes, wonderful toys, and plenty of servants. Siddhartha knew very little about life outside the palace walls. Then, as Siddhartha grew into a young man, he began to venture out beyond the walls of the palace. Despite the possible danger, Siddhartha began to explore beyond the palace walls. Driven by a servant in a horse-drawn chariot, Siddhartha was shocked and dismayed to see what his parents had kept hidden from him. On one trip, he saw a poor old woman bent over and barely able to stand. On another, he saw a sick and hungry man lying on the side of the road, crying for help. On a third trip, Siddhartha saw two people weeping. Are these nice things that Siddhartha is seeing? All around him, people were suffering. Siddhartha began to worry about all of these people outside the palace walls. Could he do to help them? Seeing all this suffering, Siddhartha could no longer be happy with his comfortable life, and so he made the decision to leave his riches behind. One night, he crept out of the palace, moved beyond its walls, and headed out along India's dusty roads in search of answers to his question. For many years, Siddhartha wandered the land, studying the spiritual teachers along the way. He was forever asking his teachers how to conquer or overcome suffering and achieve happiness on earth. None of their answers seemed to satisfy him. One night, stopping to rest beneath a fig tree, Siddhartha crossed his legs and vowed that he would not move until he had answers to his question. How long do you think Siddhartha will sit there before he can answer his question of how to conquer suffering and achieve happiness? Siddhartha sat under the fig tree for 7 weeks, almost 2 months, meditating on his question. When he finally had answers he was searching for, he felt like an entirely different person. During those 7 weeks, he believed he had received enlightenment. Siddhartha now thought he had a new and deeper understanding about life, why people suffer, and how to end suffering on earth. Siddhartha became known as the Buddha, meaning one who is awake or enlightened one. What do you suppose the Buddha learned during those 7 weeks? The Buddha learned several lessons, and his lessons became known as the Four Noble Truths. These four truths are: 1. All people experience suffering and unhappiness. 2. Suffering and unhappiness comes from greed or desiring or wanting more or wanting too many worldly things. 3. Suffering and unhappiness end when unrealistic desires end. 4. People can end suffering and unhappiness by following a few basic rules. Siddhartha's rules may sound familiar to you. They include rules like be kind to others, do not lie or cheat or steal, do not be selfish, do not harm people or animals, train your mind to think clearly. The Buddha lived a long life, traveling through India, teaching others about the Four Noble Truths and his rules for life. He had many followers in his lifetime, and Buddhism spread to many lands after his death. One person who is credited with helping the spread of Buddhism is a powerful ruler named Asoka. Asoka was not always an enlightened person. Rather, he was a warrior king who led many soldiers into battle, wounding and killing thousands of people as he expanded his great kingdom. How would you describe Asoka, who led many soldiers into battle? Does it sound like he was greedy and desired too many worldly things? Kind of does. But one particularly violent battle changed Asoka's life. As he rode across the battlefield, seeing how his desires to rule a great empire hurt others, he became horrified by what he had done. Asoka decided that day to change his life and study the teachings of the Buddha. From then on, instead of sending men into battle, he became nonviolent and sent trained teachers throughout Asia to spread the teachings of Buddhism. Often traveling in great caravans, Asoka's trained teachers did much more than preach and teach. In India and far beyond, they carried food and medicine to help people in need. Asoka, who ordered his teachers to build hospitals for people and animals, dig wells and irrigation ditches, plant shade trees by the road to comfort weary travelers, and to build roads to ease traveling from place to place. Which of these good things or good works do you see in this picture? Asoka made sure that the Buddha's messages of peace and kindness were carved on big rocks and stone monuments all over India. Although he allowed his people to practice Hinduism and other religions, he wanted everyone to be enlightened by the teachings of Buddha. Stupas, like the one you saw at the beginning of the read aloud, already existed. But Asoka built many more stupas to hold relics or important historical objects of the Buddha. Today, Buddhists travel from all over the world to worship these sacred shrines. So let's go through our comprehension questions now. How was Siddhartha's early life different from what he saw when he ventured out into the world? How did Siddhartha's experience seeing suffering in the world lead to the creation of Buddhism? How did this religion help the ancient people? Our word for today is the word conquer. What? Repeat that word with me. Conquer. What other vocabulary word had an er sound in it? What other one had an er sound? Go back to the beginning. Our other one that had er was the word fertile. That sound. How is this a tricky word? Well, it's a tricky word because QU usually says qua, but this is saying ka, like a K. So conquer. What do you think this word means? Conquer means to overcome something by mental or physical force. Jimmy was able to conquer his fear of dogs after his mother took him with her to volunteer at the animal shelter. He saw that all of the dogs were gentle and sweet. I like this picture because this is a man, he probably climbed this really tall mountain, but that's a physical force to conquer. And the Jimmy sentence about his fear, that's a mental one. It's inside his head. Do you have any fears that you would like to conquer? We also had a multiple meaning word, and it was the word train. Now, we heard the word train in our first unit with the story of Casey Jones and John Henry, and that we know that a train to be like this picture, locomotive. But train can also mean what in picture one? In picture one, train means to practice for something so you can maybe conquer it later on. I hope you enjoyed learning about this next religion. We are going to be moving on to ancient China in our next lesson. So we're going to be moving on to a different part of our world and learning about 2 more rivers that are very important. Stay tuned. Be excited.